I got Bryce with me here. You've been with us for about a year now?
Yeah, just over a year, or a year this month.
Okay, so we made it the year. Talk to me about your initial journey. Why'd you choose John Galt, and really how did we get here today?
Yeah, so my journey started in insurance when I was 18. I did life insurance due to some personal matters of going through a life insurance claim. I got into that and I started selling, and I was doing all right, but I had found that I didn't know if it was what I wanted to do, like long term. I liked insurance, but I didn't know if I liked selling life insurance long term.
Fair.
So I was in a transitional period. I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I was recommended to check out John Galt. And I met with the leadership team, and I thought that it was a good place for me to start and make that transition. And a year later, I would say it was probably one of the best decisions I've made.
And so you said you started, you were 18, right? How old are you now?
23.
23, and so going back to you're 18 years old, you have a personal situation that happened that made life insurance relevant to you. During that time, were you in school? Were you in college? Kind of where were you at that time?
Yeah, so I had just started college right around the same time all that had happened. The only reason I stayed in college as long as I did was because I didn't necessarily want to drop out, because I thought that's what we were supposed to do, was go to school. But once I found insurance, I started doing more research, and I decided to take a little bit of a leap of faith.
All right, so you go to life insurance for a couple of years. You go through the market of learning that product and what that is, and how it hit home to you and how it helped you and your family in that time of need. Talk to me about the transition to property and casualty. You know, why did you not see yourself in the life side, but more the property and casualty side?
Yeah, so I didn't see myself in the life side because of my personal connection to it, ironically. I just felt like it was a bit draining. And I wanted to help people in a more everyday capacity and interact with more people. I also like the residual aspect of property and casualty. I think from someone young like myself, knowing that the work I do the previous year, some of that will at least stick and carry over to the next year, if not most.
Right.
That's very enticing to me, because when you do that math over, 5-10 years at 80% retention, you see the value that this brings.
Right. I mean, that's really the biggest thing about property and casualty versus life or health, is that policy you sold today is going to pay you the next 3, 4, 5 years, where with life, yeah, you're getting more up front, but that's it, that second, third year. And, you know, P&C, like you said, you have a lot more interaction with people on a day-to-day, and really that product that you're selling, you're not showing up one day because of that tragic situation with a check to give to someone, which, you know, is draining and hits home for you. So that property and casualty side, a little bit more boring, we'll say, but a lot more lucrative and able to create that financial freedom moving
100%.
forward.
And I like the volume. I like the amount of people that I get to deal with and help on an everyday basis.
Right. All right, so talk to me about your transition from life insurance to P&C, specifically within our system. And then, you know, talk to me a little bit about what's helped you go from selling your first P&C policy to now, you know, being one of our top performers.
So the transition, honestly, I didn't find it to be that hard because I came from life insurance. I knew insurance, if you will. But property and casualty was still a different game. I had to get a different license. I had to take a different state test, none of which I found extremely difficult.
What license did you end up getting?
The 2044.
Okay. How long did that take you to get?
I passed the course and the state exam in 13 days total.
Okay. So it's something that can be done fairly quickly.
If you put time into it, yes, it can be done quickly. And once I started at John Galt, I went through the boot camp and the MDP training. The MDP training is what I would say really kind of connected the dots for me and made sense for me, because as soon as that was over, it was just hit the ground running.
And when you say MDP, what is that?
$1 million producer training.
Okay.
Put on by yourself and Pete, the CEO of John Galt.
Yeah. So talk to me about that training. Obviously, we have the 2-week boot camp, really, which kind of takes you from start to finish on the client interaction side. Right. And then the $1 Million Producer program is how to build that business, right? So walk me through kind of your experience with that training and something that you really took away from it.
So As somebody that has done sales before, $1 Million Producer Training, if you've done any sales before, and even if you haven't done sales before, if you've done any kind of sales before, it connects all the dots that you need to connect. From interacting with the person on the other side to getting a referral or closing a deal, it just connects all the dots you need from caring about the person on the other side. And if you haven't had any sales experience before, it's the only sales training that you need.
Right. And I think looking back at the class that I did with you in it, a big light bulb that went off is so many times people in this industry are so focused on B2C, right? That business to consumer. And I remember that light bulb just went off when we were like, no, it's business to business, right? So elaborate a little bit on that and what that means.
Sure. So with life insurance, I was doing a lot of business to consumer, and the end consumer, although that's the goal, selling to them isn't always the easiest thing to do. But when you convince a realtor or mortgage broker or anybody in that sphere, in the real estate sphere, to trust you as an insurance agent and become their trusted advisor, any one of their clients, now you are their client's trusted advisor. Right. So a lot of the selling is already done for you, and really all you're focusing on as the agent is selling yourself to the realtor or mortgage broker on the other side of the table.
Right.
And the goal is to have a meeting just like this with them.
Right, and so a lot of times, we talk to other agents that come through that training, like, oh yeah, I know mortgage brokers, I know real estate agents, I know title companies.
Do they know you, like, and trust you though?
Right. Well, and that's the thing is what about our philosophy and our concept is different when it comes to that B&B and sitting down and having that conversation with that lender. What about that is different in our system?
What's different with our system here at John Galt is it makes it to the point where if you actually understand what MDP is telling you, it's telling you to go have and get a meeting with a realtor or mortgage broker and actually give a shit about their business. Right. That's all they're telling you to do, is just care about the person on the other side of the table and try to find a way to help their business. It's not rocket science.
It really isn't, and that's what becomes so funny to me is, our biggest thing, as I always tell agents when they come through, is, yeah, everyone does their business cards and it's licensed insurance agent, and I tell them, no, when you leave here, it's actually what? Professional matchmaker, right? I always joke about that because that's really our philosophy is how do I find your pain point and then find the solution within your industry to help you grow, and then in return, obviously, we sell a product that if you're buying a house, you're refinancing, guess what?
Everybody needs what we have.
Everyone has to have that product. So, all right, so fast forward now. You've been with us for a year. You went through MDP. You were a great student. You really applied everything that we've asked. Walk me through kind of that first year, a couple of struggles, maybe your biggest win, and walk me through that.
Sure. Starting, one of the things that I struggled with and have always struggled with was cold calling. It's just not my favorite thing to do. Some people are great at it. I'm not one of those people that's the greatest at it. But what I am great at is going to get in front of somebody and convincing you that I'm a good person to do business with. So I took one of the 4 buckets that $1 Million Producer and MDP gave me, and I focused on the bucket that I thought would suit me the best, right, which was going in person, going to open houses, popping in, and just getting to know people, shaking hands, doing it the old-fashioned way. Right. I didn't think in this industry I didn't think the old-fashioned way was broke, so I didn't need to fix it. Yeah. And that's what I did. And that was one of the biggest things that propelled me the quickest, because every time I met with someone, I had a 50-50 chance. They either liked me or they didn't. Right. So from that point on, it was just how many do I need to go on? And I started doing the math of how many I needed to do to get a policy, and that was after the first month, and it just continued to snowball, and I continued to analyze the activity that I was doing to try and measure some sort of results. And within 3 months, I hit the green, which we know at John Galt is a great metric. It's $50,000 in a month. Right. And then 3 months later, I hit $100,000 in a month, 6 months, which was one of the fastest,
yes,
if not the
you're
fastest.
One of the fastest to hit the $100,000 mark.
So it just came down to figuring out which bucket of MDP I was going to use and maximize the most, and executing on that relentlessly. And then obviously being here in the office and using the people around you to get familiar with the different carriers and products, because it's not like you have one product or one company. You have to lean on your team. especially in the beginning, to learn. But once you learn, it's just go, 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 go. Right. And like you say, once that rusty faucet is on, you can't turn it off.
Right. So let's go back a little bit here. You said, so you're very numbers driven, right? That's always something I appreciate about you, is that you're like, okay, this is my goal. How do we work backwards to get that, right? And so one of your first goals was, okay, how do I get in the green? I don't want to be an agent that's in the red or the yellow, and being in the green is at least $50,000 in premium in 1 month, right? And so took you 3 months to hit 50,000. Took you 6 months to get to 100,000, which puts you on track to be that $1 million producer, right? So you've been with us for officially 1 year, right? What's your book of business at now? And what were your earnings really for your first year? Someone new to the industry, what can someone expect that first year?
I did about 700,000 book of business. I did just check. Okay. And that equated to about just under 50K first year take home for me. And, you know, I mean, the $700,000 book of business is what we should really pay attention to, because if I maintain 80 to 85% of that and continue to grow at a $700,000 clip every year, well, you do the math, right? Well, you start to see it.
And that's where this industry is so lucrative, is first year not knowing anything, right? You wrote 700,000. So realistically, within our system, that's your new minimum base foundation, right? So that 70,000 renews at 80%. That next year, now you have that base of income on top of whatever it is that you're going to write this next 12 months, which should be more than what you wrote your first year, 100%. Considering your first 90 days is really learning all the carriers, going through our trainings, being in that classroom setting. And I think that's one of the big things, going back to even the difference between what we do and selling life insurance, is come your 13th month, you're not starting at zero, right? You're starting at now 700,000 and building up from there.
Yep. And that really, again, was one of the main things that attracted me. Was, as a salesperson, I didn't necessarily like the fact that I would be churning life insurance, you know, for an extended period of time, right, and not get paid multiple times on it. Right. It's just...
You take that and, okay, so first year, 700,000, you make 50 grand. Second year, you're $1 million producer. That's going to add another 70 or 80 grand on top of that you made from year one. Your goal 5 years from now, what does that look like within our system? And from a potential earning standpoint for someone that's looking to get into this industry, what are the possibilities of what they could be making 5 years, you know, in this system within this industry?
Yeah, so, I mean, my goal in the next 5 years is at least $10 million book of business. Okay. And if you look at that at, you know, 80%, what is that? 10%, I mean, you tell me, right? Like, at 10 million...
It's 800,000.
Yeah. And the only reason I couldn't do the math is because I'm not there yet, and I'm trying to get there. Yeah. But to me, that 800,000 and 10 million, the 10 million is a significant.
Let's take a step back. Yeah. When you say, okay, $10 million book of business, right? You say 80%. What does that mean? So, you know, I'm new to the industry. What does that 80% represent?
So 80, well, let me put it this way. I should say 8%, right? Okay. Because that's about what our commission would be. Okay. 8% of that 10 million, which is 800,000. Okay. So you're telling me in 5 years that my agency at $10 million of a book of business can be netting, or at least grossing, 800,000 in revenue. Right. Well, you're talking about in another 2 years, I'm at $1 million agency in revenue.
Correct. So you're at 7 years in an industry, right? I'm going to go way back here for a second. When you were in school, right? What were you going to school for?
Business.
Okay, business in general?
Just general business administration.
Okay, so find me another business that you can come to the top of your mind that in 7 years you make $1 million in revenue for something that you essentially come to a pretty office that's nice and open and build relationships with people. What's another industry or business that you could do that within 7 years?
Well, let me put it this way. Starting from ground zero, starting at the age I started at, and starting with the credentials and qualifications and everything.
How much did it cost you to come here?
Qualifications, credentials, capital, yeah, all of those things. 7 years in the industry at my age, I mean, there's nothing.
It really doesn't exist.
If you want to bootstrap a business for 20 years and do all this and eventually get there, I mean, great, good for you. But if you're looking for a quick way that, I mean, it's not necessarily the quickest, but it's quick in relative terms to everything else. Right. It's a quick way for you to get some cash, and it'll also give you an asset, which is the book of business, that will pay you as long as you manage and work on it and work in it. And I think that, you know, especially today, I mean, that's a dream for everyone. Right. Have an asset that is semi-passive that pays us every year on what we do. Right. I mean, what else? What else are you going to find?
Well, that's why we're here, right? And it's funny, you know, I started at 24. You're not even there yet. You're 23, already $1 million ahead of me when I started, right? I always have this conversation with agents like, man, if I would have known about this at 18, I wouldn't have done anything else, right? For you, it's really not that big time frame from college to this. But if you had to go back, right, would you have even started college? Or if you knew about us, right, would it be college for a little bit and then us? Or, you know, what's your advice on that?
So I would say I was very fortunate in some circumstances to have the opportunity where I could learn a lot of things independent of a job or school or anything like that, just because I had free time. But if I could go back and do it again, I would just take the opportunity at John Galt for the simple reason of get the experience. Everything they teach you in business school especially is you're going to learn it here. Right. And you're going to learn it faster. And you're going to make money.
People that actually have done it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a textbook from a professor that's really never
But you're also going to make money as you gain experience. Right. And I will tell you that especially for the degree that I went to, I didn't need to go to school to learn what I needed to learn. Right.
But we're so accustomed or pushed,
yes,
right, by the past generation, even. Right, that you have to go to school, and because we didn't, you have to. And so, you know, looking at, especially for business majors or you know, things of that nature, what's a better way to learn about a business than sitting down with other business owners right by your side, teaching you and mentoring you on how to essentially grow a business. Yeah, we sell insurance, but our ultimate goal is to teach and to grow and help you become a future business owner.
And I will say here at John Galt, like, you feel that, especially from you and Pete, and now the agent advocates, but especially you and Pete. Every time you have a conversation with you and Pete, you feel the want to help you be successful and grow your business. Like, you feel that. And now it's carrying over into the agent advocates as we're growing. And I mean, I think, you know, we're in a good place because of it. And
I think the whole point of all of that is for us to be able to provide you with what we've learned, right? Pete always says, oh, we paid the stupid tax so that you don't have to. And then now that next wave is you now taking what you've learned and duplicating that with your own agents within your own agency, which is kind of that next phase. We were talking about it earlier today about, hey, what's next? Okay, I became $1 million producer. I've hit these milestones, but what's next for you and your agency? So, all right, well, no, thank you for today and sharing some of your insight and your experience with us. And just look forward to your continued success with us.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Guys, until next time.